Welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Saturday, everyone. Sorry for the late start here as we're getting ready here on a Saturday morning here from the ETV Community Media Center. But you may have noticed that we have upgraded here at ETV with the Shure SM7 with built-in cloud lifter microphone. So I hope you're hearing the difference from our mic tests. They were definitely an upgrade and something that was needed for this station. To also just have more microphones laying around for professional recordings as well. So really excited. All-Star Weekend and the festivities in baseball, to me, are still the best in the league. When you look at what the Pro Bowl has turned into with the skills competition and flag football game, when you look at the NBA All-Star game, with the level of effort that's being put into the game, the dunk contest and three-point shootouts don't always have the best shooters and dunkers in it. Baseball has always consistently done it really well. And I think they had some trouble clearly booking people to do the home run derby this year. I'm not sure if it's because Texas is in the middle of the country, so it's not super convenient for everyone to get to. Also, when you're in the middle of July, going to Texas in the heat, if you're not going to be an all-star, can be a lot to ask for. But the home run derby was what it was, and I still had a lot of fun watching it. As I predicted, actually, last week, Teoscar Hernandez ended up taking home the home run derby chain and championship in his first career home run derby. I really thought he had the swing for it. And, he just put on a really good show. He squeaked in to the semifinals and then was able to outlast both of his opponents in the final two rounds to win the whole thing. And I know Pete Alonso disappointed a lot of people being a first round exit with the least amount of home runs in the first round. Alec Boehm surprised a lot of people. Being the guy who was the leader in the clubhouse in the first round and making it to the second round. He had some really cool sound bites of him saying, just like everyone thought. He had that kind of little Joker moment going on, which was cool to see out of him as a player that I don't really get a lot of sound bites from. And I know that he had some back and forth confidence things with the Phillies fans booing him back in the day. So to see him as an all-star starter, to see him have that kind of confidence and have that kind of moment in the home run derby when even myself was counting him out was really cool. Teoscar Hernandez ends up beating the Texas kid Bobby Witt in the final. And per usual, that ends up happening. So Bobby Witt, I would say, was probably the story of the all-star game. Of the home run derby. You could say it was Alec Boehm for his first round performance, but I think it was Bobby Witt overall was the one that kind of arrived to a lot of people, much like Julio Rodriguez did a couple years ago. He didn't end up winning the whole thing, even though he hit two more home runs throughout the entire derby than Teoscar did. He just did not hit more than Teoscar in the final round with his bonus outs as well. But really fun home run derby, and I hope that this will just make players more willing to do it going forward. I know that Shohei Ohtani says he's rehabbing from Tommy John, which is something that's always something to keep in mind with how great he's having a season hitting. He said that he considered doing it next year. If you get Shohei Ohtani in the derby, I think you're going to get a lot of other big guys that want to compete against him, and that could be a really fun thing in 2025. But the All-Star game happened the next evening, and there was so many great moments from the red carpet to interviews with the Fox crew. David Ortiz, Alex Rodriguez, and Derek Jeter did a great job interviewing a ton of the All-Stars, getting a lot of great sound bites. And I think they just had a really nice game. This was something that you had a play that was called an error on my guy Marcus Semien when a line drive hit off his shoulder. They called it an error. They later on fixed the scoring and properly labeled it as a hit for Ketel Marte. But that ended up leading to two runners on base for Shohei Ohtani, and Tanner Houck of the Red Sox gave up a 3-run bomb for the AL to go down 3-0. And it was looking like, wow, the American League, who has been dominating the All-Star game in the last decade, might actually lose one tonight now that Shohei Ohtani is in the National League. That was kind of the feel that was going on. But the AL rallied. The AL rallied back, and they tied the game up 3-3 till Hunter Green squared off with Jaron, the crazy lizard Duran of my Boston Red Sox, who picked up his teammate Tanner Houck, who would have gotten potentially the loss, and hit a 2-run home run to give the AL the lead. It ended up being the difference, and Jarren Duran was named the Ted Williams All-Star MVP, which is poetic for a couple of reasons. It's poetic because it's named after a left-handed hitting Red Sox outfielder, and Jarren Duran wins it. It's poetic because this was the 25th anniversary of the 1999 Major League Baseball All-Star Game, which was played in Fenway Park and had the all-century team honored that night as well. Ted Williams throwing out the first pitch. And when the Texas Rangers franchise first became a thing in 1972, who was their manager? Ted Williams. How can you not be romantic about baseball? And the story of Jarren Duran, I know it's been told by a lot of people since he won the award, but as a Red Sox fan, I wanted to give my perspective. This was a kid who was insanely hyped in the system as the next impact Red Sox outfielder, a guy who had crazy speed, who was a Gold Glove caliber defender, they were saying, who had a good hit tool, was killing it in the minors. But he took a little while between injuries and hot and cold performance to make his major league debut. And once he did, he was streaky as a hitter, but he was flat out lost in the outfield. He made multiple mental errors, not seeing the ball and playing the ball wrong, that cost the Red Sox runs and cost the Red Sox games. He was booed. He was given so many hateful comments and threats and different things from the nasty side of a big league markets fandom. But Jarren Duran went through a motto of F 'em. It was something that he wore on his shirt. He had it written on his tape on his wrists and on his custom cleats for the All-Star game. Jarren Duran put his head down and he went to work. He became one of the most jacked players in the sport. His BMI is off the charts for a guy who's not super big, a guy who works really hard, one of the fastest runners in baseball, and he worked on his defense too. Jarren Duran broke out last year in 2022 during a stretch for the Red Sox before getting hurt, where he was an absolute spark plug, an extra base hitting machine, a guy who could be that Red Sox leadoff hitter and get the offense started right. And now he's an all-star. He's an all-star MVP in his first time at it. And he has been one of the most impactful players across the sport with just the value he's added on defense. He's when it looked like he was going to be hidden away. And then on top of that, he's a leadoff guy with double-digit home run power, double-digit triples, 20 doubles, 20 steals. He is what you want out of your leadoff hitter. He's what you want out of a baseball player for your favorite team. And he even said it when it was asked, like, what is the reason that you are an all-star? He said that it was about how he goes about the game. Growing up, Dustin Pedroia was an absolute idol for me. And it was because of him playing the game so hard, showing that he cared, giving his all on every play. A weak ground ball, he'd hustle it first. And Jarren Duran has that same energy. Jarren Duran has been a pleasure to watch, and I'm excited to see what he is able to build off of this amazing first half here in 2024. Congratulations, Jarren. Keep up the great work, my man. Now, as the All-Star festivities pass, it's all gas, no brakes to the trade deadline and then to the playoffs. We have so many teams that are expected to potentially sell. And I don't really know what the price tags are going to be. It seems like it's a seller's market because a lot of teams are still in the hunt and less likely to sell. So the prices should be really high. And the player I want to talk about most is Detroit Tigers starter Tarik Skubal. Tarik Skubal has been maybe the AL Cy Young through the first half of the season. He's been awesome for a Tigers team that the other 4 days doesn't have a good chance of winning the game. Now, you would say, why would the Detroit Tigers trade a guy who's in his 20s with team control, who is a Cy Young caliber pitcher? Well, the Tigers are in the most improved division in baseball, and they're not part of that most improved. The Royals are really good. The Guardians are really good. And the Twins, as expected, have been really good. Well, he still has team control. They don't have to trade him right now. Well, there are two teams that have called about him, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Baltimore Orioles, who are in World Series mode right now. And also, both have an embarrassment of riches, both at the major league and farm level. They would be able to give Detroit a package worthy of a Cy Young caliber pitcher. And I love Tarik Skubal. Last year in his limited innings, he was very good. This year, he's been very good. But he's not a proven long-term major league commodity. He's not a Chris Sale when he was traded, or a Max Scherzer when he was traded, or a Justin Verlander when he was traded. But everything you want out of a starting pitcher, especially two teams right now that are hurting for starting pitching depth because of all the injuries, Baltimore can give a haul for Skubal. The Dodgers can give a haul for Skubal. And Detroit would be silly to not listen to them. Riley Green has had a breakout season. He was an all-star as well. You can build around him. But Tarik Skubal can get you legitimate prospect capital, maybe even a major league player that isn't quite on his level, but it has team control and some nice upside to fill a spot for need. I think the Tigers need to shop Skubal, especially in this seller's market where a lot of teams that should be trading guys might not actually pull the trigger. And when you look at the pitching market, which is always a need across the sport, Mason Miller is going to be a king's ransom because he's by far the best reliever that could be available. You look at the starting pitchers that will be available if Tarik Skubal doesn't get moved. Garrett Crochet, another first-time All-Star, but he was a reliever, so he's not built up to kind of make the stretch run, but he'll still be very expensive. Then you got guys like in Toronto, like Chris Basin, Yusei Kikuchi, who just had a Yusei Kikuchi. Toronto should give him a bonus because they're going to trade him, but they're going to trade him well because he just had a really great start before the All-Star game. So there are some mid arms that will get moved, some 3, 4, 5 arms, but the two top of the rotation guys that are in the AL Central that could get moved, Garrett Crochet and Tarik Skubal. And I think most teams would rather pay the king's ransom for Tarik Skubal, who, while he doesn't have the innings in his career either, has always been built up as a starter and isn't a reliever converted to a starter in year one like Crochet. I think they're both impact arms. I think that they're both going to be guys that have a ton of very valuable assets coming back, but it is really exciting that the trade deadline is coming up and that Tarik Skubal has been mentioned with two of the best teams in baseball that have two of the best farm systems in baseball as well. Now, here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, we like to throw it back down the third base line to this day in baseball history. And there was a lot of moments on July 20th that I could have picked. Jim Bunning hit it through his first of 2 career no-hitters against the Red Sox for the Detroit Tigers on this day. Jeff Bagwell hit his 400th career home run. Willie Mays had multiple great moments. Hank Aaron had his 755th and final career home run launched on this date in 1976. But there was one giant swing for man, one giant dinger for mankind. Because on this date, July 20th, 1969, Hall of Fame pitcher Gaylord Perry hit his first major league home run. And it helped beat the Dodgers 7-3. This came off of Claude Osteen. And yes, Perry was in the league for like 7-8 years before this happened. But the reason why I said the moon landing reference is because manager Alvin Dark remarked the year before to sports writer Harry Jupiter, they'll put a man on the moon before he hits a home run, talking about Perry's hitting. He was not a good hitting pitcher. Perry's home run off of Austin in that game that helped the Giants win came about 20 minutes after the clubhouse had received word that Neil Armstrong had landed on the moon. How can you not be romantic about baseball? And while Gaylord Perry was not a great hitter, that's one of the most memorable moments of his career. Because of that quote, because of the historical significance and everything that is great. Now, Gaylord Perry gets labeled by a lot of people as a compiler. And that is true. It was very impressive that he was able to pitch in 22 big league seasons for multiple teams, a big chunk of that with the Giants. But the man has 2 Cy Youngs in his award case. He won in 1972 with the Cleveland Indians at the time, and in 1978 with the San Diego Padres. He also finished second place in 1970 for the Giants and fourth place in 1974 for Cleveland. So 4 top 5 Cy Young finishes in his career, 2 wins, and he still was able to compile 90 career WAR, 314 career wins, which was with 265 losses for a win-loss in his career of 542, so above 500. His ERA for his career is 3.11, which is very respectable when you pitch 22 big league seasons. He led the league in complete games twice and threw over 300 complete games in his career, which is unheard of now. The man threw 5,350 innings. Absolutely unreal. And struck out 3,534 batters, which is good for 9th all time. Truly one of baseball's most overlooked arms, and a guy who hit a giant home run that coincided with an even bigger human achievement on July 20th, 1969. I know this was a shorter episode. There wasn't as much baseball to talk about as we had a few days off here. But the second half begins. And what I say at the beginning of every season is that opening day, everybody's in it. Everybody's not in it anymore. But I'm not going to make full-on predictions yet until I see what teams do at the trade deadline, because that can really uplift a team's season. Even the minor moves, sometimes a Steve Pearce ends up being a huge addition at the deadline. But I will say what teams have no hope still. The White Sox, the Marlins, and the Rockies, who I predicted early on their season is over. Their season is over. But the teams that I didn't expect their season to be over so soon, the Oakland Athletics, the Los Angeles Angels, the Miami Marlins, the Washington Nationals. I expected them to be in it in August, and it's not looking like it's going to be that way. But there are serious contenders across baseball. The wild card standings are absolutely insane in both leagues. The amount of teams that are within 10 games on both sides is very deep. So there's a lot of baseball to look forward to here in the second half. I will cover all the moves and things that get made throughout the next couple weeks here. I will not be live next Saturday, but will be bringing you a special edition Solo Shot Sunday next weekend on the 28th. I appreciate those of you who spent part of your Saturday with me. I appreciate all of you who join me later this week during a drive or a workout or however you may be listening. And I will catch you guys next Solo Shot Saturday with some more baseball talk and reactions as we push towards the trade deadline, and then no all gas, no all-star breaks towards the postseason. Peace.